I slid the business card across the polished oak conference table, the way a seasoned gambler slides in the final chip, confident, calm, after playing the same long game for nearly 15 years. The kid's face drained of color instantly, pale as fresh printer paper. Just 18 minutes earlier, Logan Pierce had terminated me in front of 5 senior executives from the firm that was acquiring us. Now he was frozen in place, staring at my new title as if someone had just told him a childhood fairy tale was real, and furious. But let me rewind for a moment. My name is Marcus Hale. Most people call me Hawk. That nickname stuck back during my years in the Naval Support Corps, when I still believed that discipline, accountability, and showing up early actually meant something in the corporate world. Turns out they do, just not in the way I expected. I spent 15 years at Stonebridge Operations. When I started, we were barely 24 employees, crammed into a converted office space above a rundown retail complex. I built everything that mattered, every operational system, every vendor agreement, every compliance framework, every contingency plan that kept the company alive when crises hit without warning. Those systems were the reason Vanguard Crest Holdings valued the company at $450 million. Then, without warning, our CEO retired, no preparation, no succession roadmap, just a farewell email sent late Friday evening, and an empty executive office by Monday morning. That's when Logan Pierce arrived, age 27, relationship, the CEO nephew, credentials, an MBA from a prestigious-sounding university, better known for networking events than real accountability, practical experience, none, his very first move, ordering a personalized access badge and claiming a ceramic mug that read, "Leadership in Progress." I should have recognized the warning signs immediately. Logan called a full company meeting on day 1. He walked in wearing a tailored jacket that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, cleared his throat and announced, "We're here to redefine operational synergy." I scanned the room. Our finance director was 46, with 2 children already deep into university tuition. Our logistics lead had been running distribution centers since before Logan was old enough to legally drive. These weren't people looking for buzzwords. They needed stability. They needed direction. But Logan had a different idea of leadership. There's a difference between leading and performing, something the Navy drilled into me early on. Real leadership lives in the unglamorous details, the contracts that keep supply chains moving, the compliance reports that keep regulators away, the redundancy systems that save a company when everything collapses at once. Logan's version of leadership lived inside slide decks and motivational phrases. Within 7 days, 3 department heads stopped calling him altogether. They called me. Legal couldn't finalize our largest agreement because Logan insisted he had full signing authority. He didn't, he just assumed authority worked on confidence. Finance approvals stalled because every request got the same response, "Let's revisit this later." Procurement froze after Logan optimized vendor screening by eliminating the very checks that prevented fraudulent partners. And me, I kept the operation alive. I made the calls, I solved the problems. I worked weekends fixing the chaos he created during the week. I was 49 years old. My son was in his 3rd year of university, costing nearly $29,000 annually, not an expense that pauses because leadership fails. My wife, Emily, had tolerated late nights and missed weekends for 15 years because she believed I was building something solid, something meant to secure our future. I wasn't about to watch that get destroyed by an entitled executive playing CEO. But I won't pretend otherwise. I was exhausted. Not just physically, but from watching 15 years of careful, disciplined work get dismantled by someone who believed innovation meant pretending the past never existed. That warehouse routing system that kept shipments moving during the Atlantic storm surge 2 years ago. I designed it. The supplier relationships that locked in priority, pricing when global supply chains froze. Those were mine. The disaster recovery plan that kept us operational after our primary server cluster failed. I wrote that on a quiet Sunday afternoon, while Logan Pierce was probably posting leadership quotes online. So when Diana Mercer from Vanguard Crest Holdings reached out asking whether we had any operational continuity frameworks to support the acquisition, I didn't hesitate. I didn't give her polished corporate language. I gave her reality, one encrypted document, password protected. A clean, detailed breakdown of how Stonebridge operations actually functioned. Not how Logan described it in meetings. What mattered who knew what they were doing, which vendors kept us profitable, which compliance systems kept us lawful. I wasn't trying to save my job. I had already started revising my resume, but I wasn't about to let 15 years of work collapse under incompetence either. Diana replied within the hour, "This is extremely useful. May I share it with Logan?" I wrote back, "Let's hold off on that for now." That was the pivot point. Suddenly, emails I wasn't meant to see started landing in my inbox. Internal risk summaries from Vanguard's due diligence team. Integration schedules referencing my role specifically. HR projections highlighting critical operational personnel retention. Then Diana messaged me directly. "Marcus, what's your assessment of vendor integration timing under the current leadership model?" She didn't ask Logan. She asked me, a few nights later. 11:17 p.m. on a Wednesday. A legal document arrived in my personal inbox. No subject line. Just an attachment titled, "Stonebridge Transition Staffing Internal Draft." I expected standard legal filler. Instead, I noticed something interesting. Under Key Personnel, a transition phase, there was a role listed. Continuity lead name field, blank, an open position hiding in plain sight. I saved the email in a folder labeled Insurance. Because corporate battles aren't won in meetings. They're won in footnotes and org charts nobody reads until it's too late. Meanwhile, Logan was busy pretending to be a CEO. He hired his college friend, Mason Clark, as Director of Strategic Innovation, a title that exists only when someone wants to pay a friend without defining responsibilities. Mason arrived with a standing desk, studio lighting for video calls, and a whiteboard covered in words like disrupt, optimize, and scale. His total professional experience, helping Logan manage a fraternity event budget. Within days, things started breaking. Our vendor payment system failed after Mason optimized approval workflows by removing 2 verification layers required under federal compliance standards. One of our largest suppliers showed up in person, threatening to reclaim leased equipment after 3 weeks of unpaid invoices. I found Logan in the break room, laughing with Mason over protein bars, while our supply chain teetered. "We have a serious vendor payment issue," I said. Logan raised a hand like a traffic officer. "Marcus, if you focused less on problems and more on solutions, we wouldn't be here. Strategy handles the big picture, your operations, just operations. Never mind that I negotiated the contracts that kept costs low. Never mind that I'd already handled 5 emergency calls that morning, while Mason posed with his whiteboard. That was when I stopped speaking in meetings, mostly because I stopped being invited. Logan labeled me resistant to change and cut me out of strategic discussions. So I stopped fixing problems before they exploded, stopped offering solutions. I watched, I documented, and I prepared, because incompetence always collapses under its own weight. 3 weeks into Logan's leadership, our largest logistics partnership disintegrated. Mason missed a renewal deadline, not by days, by 3 full weeks. The contract supporting our entire East Coast distribution expired because Mason assumed auto. Renewal required no documentation. Our partner gave us 48 hours before downgrading our priority status. Vanguard's legal team flagged it instantly. Our finance director called me in a panic. Do we have backup logistics options? Of course we did. I'd built a contingency list months earlier, anticipating exactly this scenario. I handed it over quietly. No CCs, no announcements. Vanguard noticed. That night, Diana messaged me directly, "You okay over there?" Just checking in. 7 words, and suddenly everything shifted. I replied, "I'm fine, but you may want to review page 14, paragraph 3E in the staffing agreement." I didn't explain, I didn't need to. Paragraph 3E was the clause nobody read. The legal fine print buried deep inside the acquisition documents. The part stating that any operational staffing decisions during transition required approval from the continuity lead, and that role was still unassigned. The first unofficial briefing happened by accident, or at least that's what I told myself. Logan forwarded me a meeting invite without reading the agenda. During the call, Pierce Donnelly, one of Vanguard's senior integration leads, asked about 3-year vendor performance metrics. Logan froze. I waited a beat, then spoke. "You'll find those in tab 2 of the operations dashboard, rows 40. 1 through 65 include recovery cycle data." Silence. Then Pierce said, "Perfect, thanks, Marcus." After the call, a message arrived. "Would you have time for a quick discussion on operational continuity?" I agreed. 1 call became 3 by the end of the week. I didn't criticize. I didn't editorialize. I provided documentation. Risk assessments, audit trails, conflicting strategy documents, 1 from finance, 1 from Logan. By the 3rd call, the tone changed. Diana joined, then legal counsel. They stopped calling it a chat. They called it a transition review. That's when Diana asked Marcus if there were an ideal role for you post-acquisition to ensure continuity, what would it be? I answered immediately. Interim COO, transition operations, temporary, functional, focused. 2 days later, I received another internal document. My name appeared under continuity lead. Checkbox selected. Logan had no idea. He was busy hosting Innovation Fridays with bean bags and kombucha until the final meeting, and that's when the business card came out. Calm as a surgeon, Diana Mercer said, "Actually, Mr. Pierce, Marcus represents transition leadership for Stonebridge's operational integration. That authority was clearly established in the staffing agreement you signed 3 weeks ago." Logan's face went pale. "No, that's not. There's no way that's legally binding." Graham Sutton slid the contract across the table. Page 14, paragraph 3E, Marcus Hale, designated continuity lead. Final authority over all staffing decisions during the transition period. Logan stared at the document as though it were written in a foreign language, which, in a way, it was. The language of actually reading what you sign. I didn't. This was never discussed. She was never supposed to. Logan caught himself. He was never supposed to have that kind of authority. Graham leaned back calm, like a spectator settling in for a show. "Your signature is right there, Mr. Pierce, page 17, directly under the clause giving Marcus operational control for the next 90 days. The room went silent. Logan's mouth opened and closed fish-like. His hands hovered, grasping at nothing. "But he reports to me. He's operations. I'm executive leadership." Graham's smile was subtle, controlled, the way a chess master looks delivering checkmate. "Not anymore," he said. He read deliberately from the contract. "All transition staffing and operational decisions fall under the final authority of the designated continuity lead, Marcus Hale. Any unilateral personnel changes by non-board approved interim executives are null and void." Logan didn't storm out. He simply froze, as though someone had unplugged him. Mason Clark whispered into his phone, quietly excused himself. "Smart move, rats sense when the ship is sinking." Our HR director suddenly found the wood grain of the conference table fascinating. "There must be a mistake," Logan finally said, his voice cracking. "This was never discussed. I didn't authorize Marcus to have executive authority. Diana didn't even glance at him." Your signature says otherwise, Mr. Pierce, page 17. Right next to Marcus's appointment as continuity lead. Graham rotated the contract so Logan could see his own signature. Black ink, white paper, directly beneath the paragraph that had just ended his corporate dominance. I never read it. I mean, legal said it was standard transition paperwork. Logan stammered, boilerplate, standard stuff. Standard for acquisitions where interim leadership lacks operational experience, Graham said calmly. Silence settled, 10 seconds of collective held breath. But Marcus reports to me. He's been reporting to me for 2 months. I'm the executive in charge, Logan insisted. Graham didn't raise his voice, didn't flinch. About that transition, Logan, we're making some adjustments to your role. Pierce Donnelly produced a slim folder. 1 page thin. Effective immediately, you'll be reassigned to facilities management at our Kansas City warehouse. Night shift, Thursday through Monday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Your responsibilities include coordinating forklift schedules and loading dock operations. The room was silent. Logan's jaw moved. No sound came out. Kansas City, he finally croaked. Great logistics hub, Graham said pleasantly. Lots of opportunities to learn ground-level operations, character, building work, dress for winter. It gets cold. Logan's face ran through confusion, disbelief, panic, anger, then back to confusion. Diana slid a single sheet across the table. Your new assignment letter, same pay grade, different responsibilities. Titan values operational experience at every level. That was the knife twist. They weren't firing him, they were giving him the same treatment he'd handed me. A new job, whether he liked it or not. Logan picked up the paper like it might bite, hands trembling. You can't just reassign me to manual labor. I have an MBA. I've been running this company for 2 months. Graham's expression didn't change. Marcus has been building this company for 15 years. We prefer experience over credentials. I didn't say a word. No gloating, no smirk. I simply watched 15 years of work get validated by people who actually noticed. Pierce handed me an envelope. Thick cardstock Titan letterhead, inside my official appointment letter. Interim COO Transition Operations. 90, day term extendable. Salary bump covering my son's college tuition without weekend sacrifices. Titan ID badge clipped to my jacket with a soft click, louder than any sound in the room. Thank you, I said. The first words since sliding my business card across the table. Looking forward to getting started. I shook hands with Graham, Diana, and Pierce. Professional, courteous. Like any normal day, behind me, Logan's voice cracked. Marcus, you knew about this the whole time, didn't you? I turned slightly. I knew you were in over your head. I tried to help. You told me to stay in my lane. You planned this. No, Logan. I just did my job. You signed a contract without reading it. I read everything. That's the difference. He looked like he wanted to argue, maybe apologize for treating me like obsolete equipment for 2 months. Instead, he just stood there as everyone filed out. I reached the door, then heard him one last time. Kansas City. I didn't turn. They have good barbecue, and that was it. 12 years of building something real, 2 months of watching someone try to destroy it, and 1 business card that changed everything. I returned to my desk, my old desk, and started rebuilding. Vendor relationships to restore, compliance systems to secure, operational procedures to document for the new team. Real work, the kind that keeps companies alive, employees paid, and supply chains moving. 3 hours later, Emily called. How'd the meeting go? Good, I said, really good. Dinner at that steakhouse tonight. Can we afford it? Yes, I said, looking at my Titan badge. We can afford it. That evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Logan. I start in Kansas City next week. I think I understand now what you were trying to tell me. I showed Emily. She looked at me. Are you going to respond? I thought for a moment. 27 years old, just learned the hardest lesson. Authority without competence is meaningless. I typed, good luck, Keep your head down, learn the operations. You might surprise yourself. He replied immediately, thanks. And that was the last I heard from Logan Pierce. 6 months later, Diana called. Titan wanted to make my interim role permanent. Full COO, stock options, the works. I said yes. Experience beats connections. Competence trumps politics. The guy who actually knows how to run the machine gets to run the machine. The Navy taught me real victories aren't about glory, they're about completing the mission. And my mission? Keeping the lights on while everyone else figured out who was really in charge. Turns out, it was me all along. I just had to wait for them to realize it.